In the meantime, I can already reiterate what, because we in the past had this discussion about use cases versus user stories. So for me, for this discussion to be meaningful, I do want full user stories, meaning I wrote the format in the header there. As a actor, do something with entities so that outcome. The point being that you're basically describing a user interaction with the system. And why is the user doing that? Why and on what? And the reason why we need to go over these user stories one by one, because it's very essential that we agree on the entities and the actors. Because it's very easy to have like loosely described user stories that might have the same name for an entity, but it's actually something different if you start describing what that thing is.
Yeah, I'm a bit uneasy about having the notion such as base layer, which is an engineering notion which we're not agreeing on in the user story.
There's no technical references in user stories. So
exactly.
a user does not interact with a base layer unless that's an entity. So yeah, that's another thing. There's no technical discussions that don't involve describing what an entity is and how that entity is somehow shown or visualized to a user. So this is purely, there's also no discrepancy on layers whatsoever. So that discussion, the idea is to postpone to later. Right now, just about understanding user stories that we each find important to support.
But this is precisely why I think base layer should not be there. I mean, given all you said, I don't think base layer belongs in that sentence.
Yeah, I want to add a claim. Yeah, that's true. So I agree with that. But let's first, Bentley and Timothy, you have just arrived. So just to recap, the idea today is to start looking again a bit more at listing user stories from a very explicit perspective. Pretty much I think the typical method that's used in Scrum. Leaving all technical discussions as much as possible aside, such as Mike and Juan just suggested, removing base layer. I suggest to do that one by one. I already wrote this one, a quick one in Slack a couple of weeks ago, because that reflects the primary use case that I'm interested in, that reflects some of our disagreements. So if everyone's on board with having a look at that one, we can go with that one. Otherwise, we can just have a round the table where everyone first writes one of their user stories that they find the most essential for the system to support, and then we can just pick one to go ahead with to try to understand better. I'm fine either way.
Okay. Question. So should I start asking questions about this story, or should we first need buy-in on the process?
Yeah, exactly. So if everyone's okay with just going with this user story that I added, trying to understand, so if everyone's on board with what that means, then we can just go ahead with that. If anyone objects to that, then we can do a round the table to talk about a different one. I see no objections, although a confused look from Timothy.
I don't know what you're looking at.
Oh, okay. I shared the link of what we're looking at in Hangouts. I'll also share it in chat.
Yeah, my first question would to be like, what is base layer?
Yes, and that's what my, so I'll start by rewriting it. As a blog author, I want to add a claim to a system or something along those lines.
To a claim repository.
Yeah,
leave it totally open, how distributed, centralized, yada yada yada. To a claim.
Add a claim to a claim repository and link to it from my blog so that my readers can support and oppose the claim. And these arguments are shared with other blogs. So this is very lengthy. I think we can maybe reduce it. But for now, we can start the discussion that base layer has already been removed.
Thank you. I think there's 2 user stories in there, actually. So that my user can support and oppose the claim might be a separate user story. It's to enable another user story. I understand that it's part of the goal, but we're stretching it. If we're going to be playing the user story game, I think we should play it as.
But so that is in a way optional, but it still motivates the user story. So let's put it this way: if the main reason for linking is that, which is indeed another user story, I agree with you there. But is there another reason to linking than doing that other user story? Because otherwise, maybe that's what we can discuss here.
Fair enough. Okay, I think I think we should have pointers between user stories eventually, but okay, that's fine. I think it's acceptable for now.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons to link, and you don't have to be the blog writer or the creator. So yeah, there's a lot of options there. Linking is a separate use case from.
I was going to ask what you meant by linking. Let me get into that a bit. If you, the claim, is the claim supposed to be explicit in the text? And if so, it's a link from where it is in the text. Is the claim supposed to be, if it can be implicit, where do we link from? Is it separate from the text?
So now this is the process of defining entities, basically, and you're correct. So what does it mean to add a claim? So you already see that this user story, in fact, implies claim creation in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another way in which this is two user stories.
So let's start by adding claim creation instead, and then we can move this one. So there's no linking indeed if there's no claim yet, right? So as a blog author, why is the font different all of a sudden?
Google Doc logic.
Well, any WYSIWYG logic. As a blog author, I want to add a claim to a claim repository so that
I have a question. We did this whole user story exercise a while back. Should we port those user stories in there?
My main objection with those was that those weren't user stories. Those were like technical use cases. They weren't all driven from actors.
What?
You can open the document again. Do you know the name by heart?
No, but I'll look for it.
And so that was very often missing as well, which is important here because indeed, what's the reason for adding a claim to a central claim repository?
So that needs to be there, yes.
But does it help pasting them all in here right now?
I'm trying to avoid. Do you remember? By the way, Jamie, I'm speaking about the document you were involved in. You may also find it easier than me to find.
Miro, right? Wasn't it Miro?
Oh yeah, it was a Miro board.
We had both a Miro board and then we did have a document. Sorry, were you guys wanting that? Because that had to do with the
it was the SL user stories, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was user stories, but it related to the archival process and the annotation process. The debate mapping process was pretty limited, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Do you guys still have access to it, or it seems like it was heavy on the curation user stories, not on crowdsourcing user stories?
I thought some of it was appropriate. But okay, let's do that at the end. I'm curious. I think it would be good to revisit them and see which ones still fit, and I think many will. But
okay.
I'm willing to delay that. But I'm just raising a flag that in order to avoid reduplication of effort, we should revisit those. We've spent time on this.
Yeah, that's on the Miro board, right?
But what Jimmy said is there's also a spreadsheet, and I don't remember where it is.
I can look for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, put differently, what's the main reason, according to you guys, to link to a claim in a claim repository? So maybe that's a
very good conversation to have.
Claim repository so this is, I guess, what I'm trying to say, so that my readers can support and oppose the claim, and these arguments are shared with other web content linking to the same claim. This is what I mean by centralizing disagreements. So I'm willing to drop the other one. This focuses more on the linking aspect and assumes that the claim is already created. So this entails a claim creation process, which is a different user story.
Fair.
But is this one clear?
I think so.
The shared, yeah, it's a bit.
I already fixed the fonts.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See, okay, what I imagine is that once you read the blog post, which has the linked claims, there's a way to see all the supporting and opposing arguments that were added there and in other blog posts about the same claim. I think that's the aim. But the visualization here is a bit like shared doesn't make it clear that you can see the set of opposing and supporting arguments linked to that original claim. Are visible, are, you know, it's just the share that I'm think is a bit on.
I think that's a UI concern. But yeah, from an interaction
and of course, we're not
perspective,
specifying the UI, but like shared with and so that they can know, ideally at a glance, how much, you know, what is this, how this argument is opposed or supported, including with interaction from other. So. Are visible. These arguments are visible with any web content linking to that same claim. How's that?
yeah, but it's a two-way process, right? It's shared. It also means that you see the ones that,
yeah,
it's not only the ones that you add that are visible to, it's also that you,
yeah, with any web content linking to the same claim instead of other. So that includes yours.
something like this.
Can support was a claim as well as. Sounds like you're opposing or supporting readers. I like the preceding one better. With any web content, are shared with any web content, because then it includes yours. Yeah, and I preferred visible to instead of shared with, as I said.
Yeah, but it doesn't imply that it's two-way to me.
Oh no? Because any includes the one you wrote.
Let's see, it's what I want to link to.
Yeah, okay, but we all know what we mean, right?
Do we? That's a question. Well, either way, so claim repository needs to be defined here,
Yeah.
as well as
Claim.
as well as arguments,
Support and oppose.
as well as web content, I think.
Yeah, or the web.
And web author is the actor, which also warrants discussion.
Readers as well.
Yep. But that's in the that's not the actor here. That's more like
Other actors.
Yeah, true.
Still gonna add it here.
Yeah. By the way, when you say these arguments, we're cheating a bit, because we know that the supporting and opposing claims are in arguments. That's a bit implicit in here.
Maybe we can even be more generic, because support and oppose is one thing. It's the primary thing. That's why I listed it. And indeed, it entails a use case that you can support and oppose.
Which is fine, which I'm fine with, but
it can be more. It can be more, and that's what I said before. It can also be formalized arguments of like whatever. It's basically disagreement.
The readers can see arguments pertaining to that claim, but then pertaining is a bit vague.
Or how about remove the whole argument mentioning here in this story and just say people can see, or it's visible to other, no, like it's visible to readers from other blogs.
Yeah,
The web content.
actually, arguments bear some weight. It's just that it's a bit, the connection should be a bit more explicit. But like if there's, say, an opposing claim with non sequitur argument, we want to have the argument itself be visible and see that the argument itself is opposed, as opposed to the claim, the usual, right? So the argument needs to be there as an entity. So maybe it's more the argument that should be there than the underlying claim, so that my reader.
That's interesting, because no, in this use case, no, the argument doesn't have to be there. I'm literally only talking about a claim. There's no argument in the blog. There's only a claim, and I want to link to it. There's so that is, let's call it the optional part. This is more the motivating reason for doing this.
But so that my readers can support and oppose the claim. When they do that, are they not introducing arguments?
Yes, but I don't think.
But that's exterior, yes.
Yes.
And oppose a claim, so that my reader can support and oppose a claim, which is also visible. You know, which it's the supporting and opposing. We're not saying it's true an argument. You're right, Felix. Let's just remove argument from the entities.
I did, right? Oh yeah, I removed it from the
The
so
sentence. I'm happy with that.
Anyone else? Is this clear what this means right now? Because then the next step would be defining what a web author is and defining what a claim repository is, defining what a claim is in this context, which will open up the whole can of worms again, and then defining what web content is. I think reader, not really. I don't know what to do with reader. That's a good point.
I'm a bit, should we collect more user stories before diving in on entity definition? What do you think? I'm open to...
I think the main discussion will lie on what a claim is in this context, which is an interesting discussion to have. Is it a decontextualized claim or not? For example, does it entail two entities, a contextualized and a decontextualized claim? So no, I think it's premature to jump to a different user story right now.
Fair.
And what is a claim repository, etc.
Yeah.
I think the reason I think reader is irrelevant here is because it's an entity from a different system than the one that we're mapping user stories for. I mean, because websites in a way are external.
By the way, Steven, I understand we don't want to postpone those discussions about what's a claim repository, does that indefinitely. But on the other hand, fixing those based on a single user story is premature determination. But it's to centralize this agreement. So if we then later add another user story, I want to make explicit, is this the same entity or not? If we now just instantly jump to a different user story, we're going to have an ambiguous definition of claim. And it might seem that there's two user stories pointing to the same notion of claim, whereas it is actually not. So we can also say it's undefined right now. I'm fine with that. But then let's be clear, it's undefined. There is no reason to believe that a claim in one user story is the same as a claim in another user story. Okay, so are you proposing then that we define claim and claim repository locally, and then we'll in the definitions, presumably in your entities tab, we'll label each definition with its provenance. In this user story, claim needs, and that user story, claim needs.
We just need unique labels. We need definitions. And we know that definitions are important in discussions and centralizing disagreements.
No, but see what's bothering me is choosing one definition against others based on a single user story, because that gives that user story undue weight compared to other user stories.
Okay, I understand. At the same time, I don't see it as a problem, because a word can have multiple definitions. We know this, and you just need to be explicit about the one you're using. But let's just go ahead, and then, like, this is my primary use case that I think is a lot of the disagreement in this group arises from. This is the main use case I would support. So maybe now we can just move on, and somebody else can list the use case that their primary goals in terms of canonicality, maybe Timothy, or
Yeah, go ahead. All right, good.
And feel free to use words as you see fit, and then we can later move on to whether or not we're referring to the same thing if we both use the word claim there.
Yeah.
I can fix it.
Okay, thanks. So does anyone else have a user story in mind?
Too many, but
the central one that you think lies at some root of misunderstanding in this group that can help resolve some.
Okay.
What comes to my mind is that for this claim repository, people should be able to add claims without linking to them.
Yep.
Like it doesn't have to be a web content somewhere. It doesn't have to be a source.
I agree. So it's also an important one because this one obviously implies that a claim exists. So what you typically do is, yeah, where does this entity come from? Cool, you can do something with an entity, but where does this entity come from? So the next step is indeed starting to think about that, and is that the same entity that is actually being linked to, or is that something different, etc. So I'm fine with having the entity, the claim creation as a new user story.
Can do that. I was going to say identifying implicit claims is or presuppositions is a very important thing. Identifying context is a very important user story. But I think the most use case, the most like one important use case I would have is introducing a distinction. There's a claim in this text, there's a claim in that text. It sounds the same, it's maybe even the same words, but there's actually a distinction in meaning. And I want to explain why these claims are, how these claims are not the same. This is especially useful, especially so that it's about, you say, I want to say A implies B, here's A, and A is proven here. Well, it's not the same A that's proven here than the one I'm using in my proof. It's a kind of a distortion of a claim, and that's an important case for misuse of a premise. So introducing a distinction between a claim as used in an argument and as supported elsewhere. So saying,
so who does this? Because I know what you're referring to, but what's the user story? Who is doing this?
Yeah,
and I'm gonna guess you can do it all because you're in a way involving like 20 user stories here. So what's the essential one here, and who is doing it?
The essential one is as somebody, as a critic of an argument that is either implicit or explicitly identified.
This critic of the argument, like where does this person see the argument? Like, is it?
It would be, okay, I'm a reader of a text. I see an argument that I believe is flawed. Okay, so as a text reader, I want to make details. I want to make hidden presupposition explicit. So that's one use case. To show that the argument is flawed.
Because the hidden presupposition is flawed, is false, or
the reasoning using that hidden the reasoning that leads to the conclusion is false because there's a hidden presupposition that has not been well supported.
Yeah, so you want to say I want to make a hidden let's say an unsupported hidden presupposition.
Yeah.
Make an unsupported hidden presupposition explicit so that I can point out a flaw in the arguments.
So that's one story. Yeah. And the second, the other one
No,
that's
no, we said one per person.
no, it's because
And
I
remember that we haven't done everyone talking about whether or not they understand what this means, which we also need to do first.
yeah, but in a way, I wanted this as a chaser for a more complex one, which is I want to demonstrate the non-equivalence of an explicit presupposition that is supported with the support. Like somebody says, oh, I can infer this because that and that is taken from there, but I actually distorted the meaning I misquoted the original, or I put it out of context so that it has a different meaning and it's not valid anymore, which is much more subtle, or not more subtle. I mean, hidden can be subtle too, but it's a separate use case, which they're both important, of course, but it makes the comparison of context as an important use case very explicit. And in a way, that's more important to me. Let me try to write it.
You only get one though, so then this one.
Okay, so I'll remove this one. Let's say this was practice.
Yeah.
As a reader, oh God, it's just a bit awkward. I want to point out that the claim was quoted
By the way, Stephen, the formatting trick is to select the cells, go to format and say clear formatting.
Yeah, I know.
And your original font mistake probably happened because you were copying from Slack and not pasting as plain text.
Maybe. Painting as plain text, by the way, should be the default. Keeping format should be
another. It depends.
When do you ever want to maintain the original formatting? I've never used it.
Yeah, different discussion, but sometimes it's useful.
Yeah, but it can be opt-in as opposed
when
to
there is format, like a text with many bold words inside. You don't want to rebold all the words.
Is everybody clear on what I mean by context here? By quoted here?
Let's go over it. As a reader, I want to make an unsupported hidden presupposition something. Oh,
no, that's the old. That's the old
semantic.
One. Yeah.
So, but this involves two.
Yeah, it's a complex
reader,
case.
I want to point out semantic differences between a quoted claim and its usage in the new. What is the new context? What is the old context?
It's okay. It's quoted. That means it was lifted from another document and quoted in the document I'm reading. And I'm saying, you know, it was
so between two different quoted claims,
and
basically.
It's being misquoted. And I'm saying these claims, they're using the same language, but it doesn't mean the same thing in this new document as it means in the old document. And that means it is not proper to use it in that argument.
Does it have to be a new context or just a different context?
Well, the new as opposed to the one where it was quoted from. Yeah, sure, it's different. But I don't see a quote being to an older document, so I guess it has to be new.
Yeah, but it entails a lot because I mean it entails. Okay, fine.
Yeah, well,
I want to point out semantic differences between the quoted claim and its usage in a new context, I presume, or in a different context.
The one I'm reading, in the new context I'm reading. Okay, I'll say that. Oops. What?
Yeah, probably because I had it selected.
How's that different from just referring to the claim?
Yeah, we will get there next. Let's first keep the original phrasing, and then we need to identify entities and then see whether or not they're different or the same. I want to point out semantic differences between a quoted claim and its usage in the new context.
Being read. I'm a reader. I'm reading a document. There's a context that I'm reading right now.
Okay.
There's
So that I'm looking at the documents.
Yes.
And there's a quote there that links apparently to a different source.
Yes.
And you want to say
because of the change of context, even the same meaning, the same text doesn't have the same meaning as the original, and maybe it was well supported in the original document, but it's not well supported in its new intent, and that means it cannot be used in an argument.
Do you want to point out that linking to a claim does not mean that the claim originates from the document or is being stated in the document?
I'm saying
because it's just
that
quoted from another one. Like
quoting does not always preserve intent.
Right. Yeah.
Intent as in semantic meaning.
so, but there's no argument implied here yet, because you can do that exactly even outside of the context of an argument. So I removed
is
the so
correct.
that and just said so that difference in intent can be pointed out.
Yeah, but I mean, why would I bother doing that unless it was to invalidate an argument? I mean, I could because I'm anal enough to do it, but in general, the point of doing this is to show that, hey, you can't use that premise to demonstrate that claim because
And so
premise,
that invalid reasoning of the author can be pointed out or something like that. Okay.
that I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The so that indeed we said we're not analyzing in this process. It's more to understand the use case. Okay. So indeed the actor here is a reader,
yep.
which is interesting. So finally we have that one. And now it gets complicated. I want to point out semantic differences. So semantic difference will be one.
Yeah.
Quoted claim will be one.
Absolutely.
Context will be one.
Reasoning.
Because you're implying different contexts here.
Yeah. Reasoning.
No, that's the so that part. We don't do that. Okay.
Okay. Still, we have material here. You asked me if that's my most important use case. It's one that shows our difference. I think it's one.
Well, you also see we have three different entities here. So the next question is: are these entities at all related? Is the first use case in any way linked to the second one? And that's the next step. But first, I guess we need to ask Timothy and Bentley whether they want to contribute something.
And Felix and Jamie.
And Felix, indeed. Sorry, and Jamie.
I don't have anything to add. I'll be sure to jump in and make fun of people when necessary.
Please
do. Yeah, I guess I could throw it in here.
I'd like one, I think for Timothy, you probably want to add one related to canonicality.
Would be nice.
I'm not going to try to twist it to say canonicality.
Even better than you define it in
I'm going to
place.
start slowly. No, I don't want to. Yeah. I lost the document. I had it open. Hey, there it is. Okay.
I was going to say mine in a way is a breach of canonicality. But yes, let's.
Maybe I'd add something about deduplication.
Yeah. I think the duping from last meeting, it's also obvious we all care very much about that. And then the question is, which entities are we deduping? And Mike Antoine is going to say all of them.
Correct. Absolutely correct. Because everything's related.
It freezes. I don't know.
As a reader of what is my first question here. And I think the same one actually applies for the second use case now that I think of it. Oh, no, it's more implied with different contexts indeed. Yeah.
Whatever. It's as a non-contributor, as somebody, as a human.
No, but you see, the user sees something. So just try to incorporate in the use case what the user is seeing. Like in a Mercant one's case, it was context, apparently, 2 different contexts.
There's
But where is the claim?
not in a blog. I don't know, the claim repository, I guess. I don't know.
As browser of the claim repository.
Exactly. Which is essential because.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a browser of a claim repository.
Okay, so.
It can be somebody who was linked to a claim.
Yeah, but the starting point then is that you are on that claim, seemingly on the.
Which is why I put as a reader of a claim. Where are claims? That's the question. Where are claims?
For your user story, yeah, where are claims? That is the question.
I don't have an answer. I want to see a claim.
Okay,
so
it depends on how you defined it so far. It's
okay.
Wherever you put the claim, that's where I want to see it.
And this is why I said as a browser of the claim repository. I mean, maybe you're opposed to browser really, but what you're saying is somehow maybe from
except I don't like the word browser. I'm not browsing.
Okay,
as a reader of the claim repository.
As a reader of the claim repository.
Yeah,
but you're implying that you're implying, Timothy, that you're linked to a claim repository. You're implying some user of a system.
Wherever the claim is, right? I'm a user of a system. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's the system. So
no, but 1 second.
The system.
But you did say not articles, for example.
Right.
Right. So as a user of a visual manifestation of the claim repository, but that's getting a bit long-winded.
I'm fine with claim repository, and it's interesting because it overlaps with the entity we have in the first use case.
I mean, let me put it another way. As a reader, I don't care where it is. Just show me the thing, and I want to see the reasons for or against. I don't care. Yeah. I just want to know when there's a claim.
But where are you when you see the reasons for and against?
Well,
give that thing a name.
At home.
Yeah, it's funny. You're forcing me into a corner, which is forcing me into a corner of UI design. I don't care. As a user, as a human being, I don't care. Give me a claim and show me the reasons for or against. Now that means we could design it to appear as a highlight within a blog if you want. We could link to it, and then I have to list every single possible system you can link to. I don't know. I just want a way to quickly see.
Okay,
so you're a claim that was put in the repository. I want to view quickly the reasons for and against it.
Okay, so you're not excluding it appearing in a document. So that means as a reader of any document.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I'm not going to say in a document because I don't specifically want to see it in a document.
But you just said something interesting. You want to see a claim from the claim repository. So then just say as a user, I want to see a claim stored in the claim repository so that whatever else is there.
Yes. I don't care about how it's presented to me as long as it's readable and easy.
And then the question
it's
later
in the claim repository, correct?
Because it's the claim repository thing that was missing to make clear what you're talking about. So I would write, as a user, I want to view a claim in the claim repository so that I can see all the reasons for and against. What did you write? Against that claim at a glance. To quickly understand the issue. So you're just referring to any user here of the claim repository-ish.
Pretty much, although, you know, the one user I had in mind is somebody who isn't necessarily a regular user. That's why I didn't want it to be browser or whatever.
So I think there's some commonality here between document reader and reader. I would just say it as a reader, but we can keep it user for now.
I suspect that's right.
We can discuss the differences in terminology here in a bit, but so I think as a reader of a claim, the claim repository is already, so you want to say, as a user, I want to view a claim in the claim repository so that I can see all the reasons for and against the claim at a glance to quickly understand the issue. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, sort of. The question I have about document reader versus reader is, you know, is it important to distinguish between a person who is using the regular user interface as opposed to somebody who is anywhere on the internet?
So that would imply a different actor, but we'll go there in a bit. Let's first try to hash out this one. So yeah, you already added claim repository, claim, obviously. Yeah, that's all. Okay. Reasons is so that part, we're not doing that. That will be another user story where you can actually add reasons. There's more to understand the motivation for the user story.
Well,
are you okay?
Oh, well, okay. I guess.
We didn't do that for the other ones either. It's more like defining user story in the so that part. It's just so we aligned on what the reason is for doing it, so we can better understand differences between these entities. Can I make column 5 column? Can I remove column 4? Row 4, sorry.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, let's indeed now elaborate on the difference between document reader and user. I think would be interesting, unless anyone else, of course, wants to add another user story.
It's a good question, because I think, yeah, there is a difference. And maybe my document reader is not right, because my document reader is obviously an advanced user, because they're going to not just read, but write into the repository. So there's, as a, I don't know what to name that claim, but as a claim author or
as a contributor, curator, let's call it contributor.
Let's call it contributor. I'm happy with that.
And then let's call the other one the reader, just to be more explicit, because I mean, all actors are users. It's just as in saying the same as an actor. And I think I wrote a mistake in contributor, but I can't think, is it Renault?
Yes, yes, yeah. Yes.
So Timothy, what's your hesitance with calling a user in your user story a reader?
I called my user a reader.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but I did not call them a document reader.
Yeah,
so I think I called them a reader.
So now we realize these two are actually distinct. That's good.
How do you edit a multi-line? I thought it was option return to add a line.
It's command return on Mac. Command or
Yeah,
turn
I
on
also
Mac.
struggled.
Okay, thanks.
That should be the next tabs versus spaces debate. Is shift enter or command enter for a new line. Every interface does it differently.
I don't exactly miss CRLF, but I really don't actually. I think it was an abomination, but there was a distinction of intent that was really nice.
We have 7 more minutes, so we already resolved the conflict between these two actors. Do we want to go out and actually start hashing out the difference between these 3? Or is a web author also a contributor? Or is it something different? Maybe that's the next one.
I think the web author here is somebody who's writing their own document at the same time as they're contributing to the claim repository. So there is a difference in the type of contribution. It's contributing while writing text or contributing to analysis of an existing text, and it's not quite the same persona.
Yeah, and you're not contributing in the sense that you're adding stuff to the system. You're adding stuff to your blog external to the system. I think that's the difference between web author and contributor here. Your contributor implies that you're going to make modifications. That's why it's a different actor, because it probably will need different privileges. Well, it will need an account. Whereas my web author is someone that wants to actually read, but do more. It wants to link. So maybe we can call it a linker or something. I don't know. Do you understand what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, I think there is. I think it's a real distinction. I agree with you. I don't know if linker is the right term, but as
external, it's something external, as an external source or something like that.
I'm happy with web author personally, but it's web author plus claim scholar, so to speak, or somebody who wants to refer as a referrer to claim to the.
It'd be like a, what do you call it? A content. Call that like a content generator as a web content. I guess web author is.
It's really 2 roles. There's a web author, and it's somebody who's a web author and a claim linker or claim identifier or a claim referrer. Oh, Felix has to run. We didn't go through yours.
No, Jamie has to run,
I
right?
have a few more minutes. Jamie has to run. Just said bye to Jamie.
Okay.
Can I have a few more minutes with mine, and then, but I also need to go then.
For now, we could keep it web author unless we can find it better. But I think the essential thing is there's no modification actually to the system. It's just linking to stuff that's already there.
Let Felix speak now. Yeah, I agree.
What should I say? Did you read my story?
Yeah. Oh, if you want questions, I have a few.
Yeah, please.
Oh, this one. Sorry.
If 2 authors link to 2 different claims, okay, that's fine. So they're web authors in the first sense. They should be possible to merge them. It should be possible to them. That's just grammar. But is it the same person who will merge, or is that another role? I'm thinking.
Can be another role. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking as a contributor reading 2 claim-enriched documents, I want to merge the claims identified in both documents. Now, I could happen to be one of the original web authors, but I think this is a role. It's a bit like the contributor role. I'm curating the claims identified by someone else. So maybe it's curator.
Yeah, so 2 roles. Yeah.
Let's first start by writing it in the correct format. You said as a contributor first, Marc-Antoine, but so you say as a curator?
Yeah, I'm making
because
it more.
that's the role that takes the action. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, okay, we can talk later whether it's different than a contributor, but
Yeah.
as a curator, I want to what?
To merge 2 claims. That was right. I want to merge 2 claims identified in 2 separate documents.
that?
So that the two articles linked to,
link, yeah, okay.
so that was right.
To the same claim. That makes sense. Felix, are you okay with replacing what you wrote with this one?
Yep, that works.
Claim obviously is here. I don't know who wrote the existing ones, but I see claim,
Yep.
documents, and that's it.
Yeah, we could say the two documents linked to the same claim instead of two articles.
Yeah.
To
Identical interpretation is not mentioned in the story anymore.
No, and neither is, well, merge is the action. That's not an entity. That's what.
Yeah, okay, but I thought it needs a definition, but yeah.
No. So the
Maybe
entities are the entities are the things you do your merge on. Those are the actions, right?
Maybe the merged claim is.
Yeah, merge means needs definition.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So merged claim could be. What does that mean? Indeed, that's a very good point.
Okay.
This way we don't have to define identify or interpretation, right?
Yet.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we can call it
An hour.
yes, but already these four, I think we can easily spend another hour just trying to describe these identities and identifying whether or not we're talking about the same entities. And that's a bit the point of this. So now we all understand four different user stories and why we want to do them. And I think, at least I agree with all of these. But the question is, do they actually act on the same entities where there's potential name overlap? And I highly doubt it. I don't think wherever claim is used here, it's the same type of claim. But that we can try to uncover next week if Felix allows me.